This is Tim.
I'm Mulele.
And this is Critiquing Comics. Welcome to Critiquing Comics. This is Tim with Mulele in Tokyo. How's it going?
All right. I guess reading some comics and talking about them with friends. That's about it.
Yeah. I actually got a few comics read this past week that I didn't even necessarily have to read for the podcast. That's unusual.
Wow.
Not a lot, but some. Actually, I read a whole graphic novel, which might end up being talked about on Deconstructing Comics at some point, but it was a French graphic novel that popped up on Comixology a while back. And, this looks interesting. It's called Blank Slate, but anyway, that's not the comic we're talking about today. So we got a comic sent to us that's being published by Action Lab, and it's called Kid Sherlock. So it's all ages comic about Sherlock Holmes as an elementary school kid going to Baker Elementary, and Watson is a talking dog who is for some reason an elementary school student. Just go with it. I should say the writer is Justin Phillips, artist is Sean Gregory Miller, colorist Lesley Atlansky. And I don't know, like it's all ages, so I mean there are mysteries, but of course they aren't murders. It's kind of on the order of Encyclopedia Brown, I would say. And I did find the mysteries fairly interesting. I mean, they aren't very elaborate, but I was sort of interested in seeing how it was going to be resolved, or how they were going to prove that no, he didn't do whatever this guy did, or that kind of thing. And the art is good for the most part. I mean, it's some really nice cartooning, and the colors are really bright. There were a few little points of the art that I thought were a little careless, but I'll get to that. What did you think of this?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I didn't notice anything that was really careless. I did notice one typo early on in the comic when Watson comes, and he has a seat, and I think it is the beginning of page 4, where the teacher says, "Why don't we and break early for lunch?" Small typo, but
oh, yeah,
I think they just left an "and" where they shouldn't have. But other than that, yeah, it is fairly consistent throughout, and I like the coloring. I liked the artwork. It was a pleasing read.
Mm-hmm.
There was nothing there that really upset me or threw me off, or I found a baffling choice. Everything seemed to be in order. The one thing I would say, though, the mystery, I kind of wanted a chance to be able to solve the mystery.
Yeah, I don't think that all the clues were available to us until he was unraveling everything.
Yeah, I kind of felt that. Or if they were there, they were so deep in the background that I didn't really understand. And the mystery has to do with a mystery smell in the classroom, and not having an element of smell. This comic leaves us kind of out of that loop.
Scratch and sniff.
Yeah, it's a little bit too far removed, I think, and so it's a little bit difficult to kind of put it together.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in that sense, I wanted just a little bit more, just from the story. But the rest of it seemed fine.
Okay.
What part did you find off about the art?
There were a couple of things. I mean, they're not huge problems, but so the elementary school, in the first panel, we see the wording, the lettering on the front of the building, Baker Elementary. But then on page 15, when we see the building again, the lettering is gone. They just like forgot maybe to put that lettering into the panel a second time.
Okay.
And the other thing was on page 5, the last panel. So there were a couple of things that I thought could have been a little better here. One is describe the panel. So Watson, the dog, who's carrying his bag lunch, and the teacher are standing in the doorway of the lunchroom, and the teacher is telling him that he didn't want to eat in the lunchroom. He wanted to eat in the classroom. But she said she has to be outside with the rest of the class, and she shouldn't leave him alone there. And then in this last panel, she says, besides, how else are you going to make friends? Now, I thought that in terms of kind of the framing of it, I thought it would have been a little more effective if we could see more of the lunchroom. I was kind of expecting a panel where maybe Watson and the teacher would be closer to the top of the panel, and you could see like a big wide shot of kind of chaos in the lunchroom. And we're just getting a little bit of that chaos, like 6 kids, and a teacher. But Watson and the teacher are like right in the middle of the panel.
Yeah.
And I just feel like there's something a little bit missing there. The other thing was the lunchroom doors. They are so flat against the wall that at first I thought they were sliding doors. But if you look on that panel, the left side door, you can see one single hinge at the very top of it.
Yeah.
We can't see the bottoms of the doors to see the other hinge. We can't see that area of the other door, but they're just kind of improbably flat against the wall. And you can really see it at the top of the next page because it's kind of an aerial view.
Yeah.
And those doors are just flat against the wall. If they're not sliding doors, they should be kind of out at angles a little bit, maybe with, like a doorstop or something holding them back. So that was a little unrealistic, I thought. But those were the only points of the art that stuck out to me as problematic. And I read the first 2 issues, so overall it was fine, but just a couple little things.
Okay. I wasn't as bothered by door. And I think just kind of reading through it, it read to me correctly as door. I wasn't really thinking about what kind of door and were the physics of the door correct,
okay.
Or the physicality of it. But the I think the artwork is intentionally simplified, so it reads very simply. There's not details to get stuck on too much. And I think with that, you would get this kind of thing where some parts don't quite make sense because it's not a door. It's a symbolically a door. They never actually walk through that door because the panel before, the teacher has her hand on Watson's shoulder, and then she's kind of like cupping the back of his head in the next panel. But there's this center divide for the door that her arm would not be able to get through. which makes it a little bit of an awkward kind of passage. I mean, if I were the teacher, I would no longer have my hand in that position had I have to go around that.
Right. Well, and I would think that kind of a bar between the doors they would probably remove during lunchtime. I would think it would be removable because, people are going to run into that thing. It's going to, or else it's going to.
I can see lots of kids using that to kill their friends. Yeah.
At the least, it creates a bit of a bottleneck.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, I think the point of it is to show something that is symbolically a door, not an actual door. Mm-hmm. And that's part of the simplification of it. But I do agree. You see only 6 students, 5 of them sitting and 1 of them standing. And about 4 panels later, you see a reverse angle where Watson's walking through the rows. And there seem to be hundreds of students.
Yeah, it's a huge lunchroom.
Yeah. So I think you're right. The panel, the layout of that panel doesn't quite work as well as it should. It needs to be kind of a further back shot especially for how much real estate it occupies on the page, versus the information that it conveys. So yeah,
it's like half the page almost.
Yeah. I don't think the cafeteria really needed to be that big, but I mean, what did they want to say about it?
It looks like a comics convention, like Comitia or something.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, yeah, and also I like a couple pages later where Watson's kind of sitting alone on top of the hill, which is still within the school grounds. That's a really big school. But yeah, it's. I think there are a couple of places like that in the comic, but I think overall, none of that stuff really bothered me. It was all kind of fine. If you're rolling with a talking dog in an elementary school, while the other elementary school kids are making dog jokes about him, I think I can forgive the weird door.
Yeah.
There was one panel though that was kind of confusing in its order. Page 6, which is the page directly after the one you were talking about with the door. Mm-hmm. Let's see. If I remember correctly, comics go left to right. American comics.
Right. It's not manga.
Because I work in English and in Japanese, sometimes I get confused about which way the comic goes, and I'm sure some people have seen that in my artwork as well. But here I got lost because it was left to right, top to bottom, and then it goes in this one left to right, right to left.
Yeah.
Is that just me, or does that kind of bug you too?
Well, since the right to left part, the right side panel is higher, and the word balloons are higher than the one in the next panel, so it didn't really throw me, although the 4 silent panels above it, it's a little hard to discern what order they're supposed to be read in.
Right, and I think that's where the logic breaks down, but then you have to rely on some broken logic to get that next bit of it's higher, but et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, because those first 4 panels, I almost think that they're like to be read in columns, because the second panel... Well, the panel under the first panel feels to me like the next one logically based on what's in the panel.
Yeah.
Where he's looking out at the huge lunchroom. And then the 2 right side panels are Watson walking among other kids in much more close-up shots. So those logically seem like the 3rd and 4th panels of the page, but by the positioning, you wouldn't think so.
Yeah. It's just a little bit weird there. But I think that's the only real problem I had with panel direction.
Yeah, in the second issue, there was one place, and I don't have it open right now, but there was one place where the placement of the word balloons was kind of off. Where, as I recall, see if I can find it here, there was a word balloon that on a right side panel that was overlapping onto the panel below it, even though that wasn't the next panel. And then the first panel of the next row was overlapping on the row above it. So you had these two word balloons that were basically side by side, and the right one was supposed to be read first. But I really had to kind of stop and think about it. It was on page 17 of the second issue.
I only read the first issue.
Yeah. But
sorry.
Yeah, just for reference of the listeners or the people who submitted it. This was submitted by the writer. But yeah, it was a little jarring, and especially since the panels have no gutters, at least not in the second issue. So that also can create a problem. I think we had that in another comic before where there were no gutters and it made it a little confusing.
I've got a quick question. So an all ages book, I've never made one, never read one. The idea of it, of course, is to be all ages, but are there any other rules, like it should teach something, or it should, I don't know, serve some other purpose than just entertainment?
I don't think so. I take it to mean, I mean, there might be a lot of different interpretations, but I take it to mean that there's just nothing that someone is going to find offensive in it.
Okay. Well, in that case, then yeah, there's nothing here that's offensive, although I do feel that it's a little bit of a missed opportunity with that mystery not being solvable by the reader. I think if you put the reader in the position of a second Watson, kind of, because I mean, that's the thing of Watson. He always tries to deduce what happened and try to solve the crime. Sherlock calls him an idiot and explains this impossible logic to get to the conclusion that he reaches, and that's kind of the format of Sherlock Holmes as I know him in pop culture. I've never read any of the books, sorry. But
I did, but it's been decades anyway.
Okay, well, I don't even have the vague memories of, but I think this book would actually do much better. I mean, it's not a bad book already, but it'd do much better if it put the reader in that position where it says, okay, here are all the clues. Can you solve this mystery? And then pull out the weird logic. And it's not to make the reader feel stupid, but just to kind of build tension in the reader's mind, I guess.
Yeah. Well, it is a little disappointing to have a mystery where you don't have all the information. I mean, so I was just watching the other day. Well, I have the DVD set of the 70s Ellery Queen TV show, which was only on for one season, but my brother and I watched it way back then. And I was watching one of the episodes the other day, and it's all the clues that you needed were there, but they kind of slip past you. You have to be really on your toes, but when he explains at the end, like, oh yeah, that's right, that was how it was. And that's, in my mind, that's how a mystery story should be. When they lay it out at the end, you'll go, "Oh, I missed that. Oh, he's right. Yes." Not, "Oh, okay, that's how it was. I had no idea. There was no way for me to know that." That's a little unsatisfying.
Yeah, yeah. That is. I think it. Yeah.
But I mean, we're it's easiest for us to kind of pick out the problem areas, but overall, I thought it was more good than bad. It was engaging.
Well, it was fun. It was a smooth read, and I do appreciate that. And yes, it very much is a comic you can take to any to all ages and not be disappointed. There's no hidden jokes for adults, but it's still very competent in how it does everything except for the couple of nitpicks that we mentioned.
Yeah. All right. So, what's been going on in your life, Mulele? I know there's been this whole saga going on that hasn't really made it into the podcast, but you thought you'd bring it up here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it kind of came to a head this week, so I thought I'd just unload it all. Also, I'm sure people are kind of wondering why Mindgator isn't quite finished yet. This goes all the way back to about August of last year, where the CEO of my company, I was teaching English in Tokyo at this place called English Village. And the CEO of the company sold, or not CEO, I should say president of the company sold us to this company that basically flips companies for its money. They had done a couple of other companies, including Virgin Cinema and Beard Papa and et cetera. And none of those seem to have fared too well because Beard Papa, although it used to be in my neighborhood, is now not. And I think it's because of them. And Virgin Cinema.
And Beard Papa, to listeners outside of Japan, yes, there is a shop called Beard Papa, or there was. And the logo was a guy with a white beard. And what did they have? Cream puffs? Yeah,
that was it. Sorry, I'm just getting some tea. They had cream puffs, and they still have shops in Shibuya, and I understand they have a couple of shops around the world, but I don't know. And my current lifestyle doesn't have room for cream puffs, so that's not my thing really. But anyway, Virgin Cinema, of course, was my thing because I love watching movies. That shit is now out of Japan for the most part. And I think that's because of them. They basically sold it to Toho, which changed the name and did it their way. Whatever. Saw them come into the company, knew that they were kind of risky when they were glad-handing everybody so hard when they came in. But basically, we're a great company. I don't know if the term is quite familiar in other countries, but a great company being a company that's kind of in a gray zone legally, as in it doesn't quite pay out everything it needs to pay out as far as health insurance and all those things, even though they're obligated to by Japanese law. But then the company decided they wanted to be a black company, which is completely illegal. Does not treat the workers according to the law at all. Basically, it sets up a kind of mini dictatorship where the president is in fact king, and we just have to follow. Basically, he said, okay, no more paid holidays. No more overtime. You're now contract workers, which means an hour is an hour is an hour, and you can work 150 of them in a day, but you still only get paid for the hourly rate, no overtime. And so it became really, really hard. It was a hard contract. And looking at the contract that they gave, it said basically, you've got, well, it basically laid out all of these rules very much the way they like, and kind of left gray zones or just empty spaces where there were supposed to be protections for the other person involved in the contract, the teacher. And I noticed that at the beginning of the contract, the company's name was one way, and at the end of the contract, it was a different way, and they couldn't even get their own name correct in the contract. So I'm looking at this piece of shit contract and saying, I can't do this. And talking to some of the other teachers, they couldn't either. And so I contacted a friend of mine who's a lawyer and said, what the hell is this? And, well, long story short, we began to fight it. A few months later, my boss said, sign the contract or get the fuck out. And so I said, I'm not going to sign the contract. And if you fire me, that's an illegal firing because I'm an employee. You can't fire employees in the middle of a contract negotiation, also against Japanese law. I'll see you in court. He says, yeah, whatever, tough guy. And I'm out of a job. So January, basically declare myself a full-time comic book artist, which is basically true, except I'm sweating bullets because I no longer have the money to pay for my life. But I am taking these guys to court. My lawyer said, basically, don't worry, it won't cost you that much. Just hang in there. And so we worked out some sort of deferred payment thing, and on we went. Japanese law has a thing about if a company, if the little guy battles the company, he doesn't have enough money to survive a year-long court battle against a company that has many more resources than the employee. So to even the table, so to speak, Japanese court says, okay, there's this thing called provisional disposition where if you win this, it's usually just 2 or 3 court sessions. But if you win that, basically they see merit in your case, they will order the company to continue to pay the salary of the employee while the employee sues the company, which is a beautiful law. I don't have that in America, but I'm very much enjoying this now. So it comes down to it. They lose this provisional disposition battle, and they're ordered by the judge to pay to me my salary in full, going back to February, where they had stopped paying my salary. And so, once this decision was, this decision, by the way, was handed down on May 1st, Labor Day, which I find quite ironic and beautiful, or maybe serendipitous. But anyway, on the 8th, we go, my lawyer calls their lawyer and says, so, you lost, when are you going to pay? And their lawyer, for whatever reason, he's just a dick. I don't know what his thing is, but he's like, oh, well, I have to talk to my client. I don't know. And so my lawyer says, oh, call us back at 3. And their lawyer's like, I'm not calling you for shit. You want to talk to me, you can call me yourself. And so my lawyer's like, okay, we have no agreement, then we're going to go ahead and do the next action. Now, the interesting thing here is that Japanese courts don't have any kind of contempt of court power. And they do, but they rarely use it, and never for anything outside of the actual courtroom. Only when there's severe disruption inside the courtroom do they actually use it. And there were a few times where the judge told either side to please calm down because there were some shouting matches in the case. But that's as far as it went. They never went to any sort of disciplinary anything. But basically, it seems that they weren't going to pay. The judge ordered that I be paid by the 10th of May, and the they didn't. So we were able to do a certain action under Japanese law where we basically go to a middleman who's like it's like a bounty hunter, but for collection in these matters. And so we set up a time to meet and a place to meet where we also have we hire a locksmith, and there's a court-appointed witness that comes with us. And together we gathered in front of one of the school branches, and we went in, and the bounty hunter very, very calmly, very, very softly, gently approaches the staff of the school and says, there was a court case, and the school lost, and this person was the person who won, and the school owes him money, and they didn't pay, so you're going to have to pay now. So please give us all the money in your register and in your safe. And if you do not have the key to the safe, it's okay. We have a locksmith here who will open it for you. And mind you, all of this costs about how much? I think it costs about $2,000 to hire all these people to bring them in. And I think basically what they were assuming was that I didn't have the money because I'm kind of running out of money. And in fact, I hadn't paid my rent in about a month and a half. So they're right about that. But my lawyer, good man that he is, says the money is guaranteed to come back. So I'll front the money for this, and we'll go ahead and do this action. So we go into the school, we grab their register, we grab their safe, and we get all the money. It's about a tenth of what they owe. But, the number 2 man at the school is freaking out because, he's being robbed, but the robbery is sanctioned by the government. If he calls the police will be there to help us rob them. So the number 2 man calls the number 1 man, the guy who told me to sign the contract or to get the fuck out. And he's like, look, talk to our lawyer. And my lawyer's just like, man, the time for negotiation is done. Could have negotiated in court, could have negotiated on the phone. You told us to go fuck ourselves. So here we are. And I'm loving this because you don't have to lift a finger, and all these people are doing this for me. I'm very, very happy about this. But and the number 2 guy, he kind of knows me, but he never really introduced himself. So when he did kind of walk over and say who he was, I was like, yeah, if you hadn't treated us so poorly, this action would not have occurred. I don't think he quite heard it, but it was just nice to say it. However, the number 1 guy, the boss, his name is Nick. He's actually Japanese, but he goes by the nickname of Nick because he thinks he's cool or something. But anyway, Nick is trying to negotiate his way out of this. And my lawyer is saying, well, we'll stop this if you bring all the cash tonight. And it's about 1 million yen that he has to give. But he's like, no, the banks are closed. We can't arrange the money. And he's like, okay, well, too bad for you. Thank you. Goodbye. And so we shut it down and we leave with their money, and we hop in a cab and race to the next school. And at the next school, we go in. The staff is there. She doesn't know what's going on because they're still freaking out about the first school. And we just say, same thing. We're here for the money. Just open up. And she just, I'm okay. And she opened up everything. She was very polite. She didn't want to get involved in any of this nonsense. And we walked away with another 60,000 yen. It's like $600. So 1,000 at the first place, 600 $600 at the second place. And then we go to the third place. By the time we get to the third place, the number 2 guy has rushed over and he's on the phone. He's panicking. His eyes were twitching at the first school. By the time he gets to the third school, his jaw is like grinding and twitching. It was real weird. He was just kind of like losing control of his face. But he's got the number 1 guy on the phone again, and the Nick, and Nick is like, look, I'll be there at 8. It's 7:30 now. I'll be there at 8. Just wait. And the bounty hunter is just like, I'll wait till 7:50. If you're not here, we're going. It's like, wow, tough guy. But yeah, so I don't know what happened, but the guy, Nick, was there in like 10 minutes, and they were negotiating. Just the two of them were negotiating in another room, and just to kind of make sure that there was no disturbance or anything, he kind of told me and the lawyer and some of the other people to just kind of wait in one classroom and just not say anything. So we waited, and he comes back around and says, "We got it all," and he walks out. Now the way it works is that the money is given to the court officer. The court officer processes it and sends it to my lawyer. My lawyer then sends it to me. So the money is not here yet, but it's coming. And because this is just for the back money that they owe, they still have to pay for this month. And this month, and my lawyer is like, well, yeah, if you promise you pay tomorrow, we will not come back to the school. But if you don't pay, we will just come back. And it was weird because it seemed like he didn't quite understand that this is not the end of the court case. This is just the provisional disposition. This is just the point where we say, okay, now we have money, and now we're actually going to sue. This is where the court case begins.
This is not the settlement of the suing. This is just paying your salary while the court case is going on.
Exactly. And he was like, no, I paid the money. Just don't come back to the school anymore. We're done, right? We're done. And my lawyer's just like, no, son, this is the beginning. And you better pay every month, because if you don't pay, we'll just come back and do this again. Come to realize that he's not worried about the business part of it where we're disrupting the students or anything. He's worried about the other teachers seeing a former teacher walk into his school and just grab cash, because it's a clear sign that I won some legal battle. So he just wants to make sure that I'm absolutely not going to come back.
And you too can do this, the other teachers are seeing.
Exactly. Apparently stuff is already kind of going around the school about what happened. And there are a couple of people that I was talking to at the first school, and I was telling them what was going on. So they're also spreading some of it. And I'm sure the staff are now kind of freaked out and spreading stuff around the staff as well. So basically what it means is that I just got 4 months' salary, and there's more to come, with the proviso that I don't get another job. Because one of the weird things of this is that if I get another job, it means I don't really need the money to live while I'm suing these guys. So they'll actually reduce the amount of provisional disposition I get. So I'll be making comics. And until this point, I'd been under extreme stress of non-payment, and was having a really, really hard time. What was supposed to be 3 court dates wound up being 6 court dates because of their shenanigans. They kept trying to extend as far as they could, knowing that I'd run out of money eventually. But their plan didn't work. Now I've got money, and now we begin. So now, without any more stress about money, and without me kind of struggling to find some sort of part-time job or some other thing, I can just sit back, let my lawyer take care of the case, and make comics.
Yeah, sounds good.
So I'm now a fully sponsored comic book artist for the rest of the year.
For the rest of the year, really? They're expecting it to take that long?
Well, the judge said you have to pay Mulele during the court for the next year. And if the court case goes over a year, then we can file an extension. But it's rare to go over a year, even if it goes to like the next level of court or the Supreme Court. I guess it would be what do they call it here? Not Supreme Court.
Don't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah. Yeah, well, there are implications in the way this company is doing business that reach towards other English schools. So on that level, it could go to the highest court.
Because it would affect the whole kind of
Yeah.
Eikaiwa English school business.
Right. And
industry.
So on that level, on industry level, then yeah, they do begin to look at that stuff. But right now, it's in the district court, Tokyo District Court. So, yeah, we're looking at maybe a year.
Okay.
Which I guess means another 8 months, 7 months.
Yeah. Well, we're recording this on May 17th, so that's another 7.5 months.
Yeah. So I should be getting at least that. So I plan to make a lot of comics as fast as I can. Now that my mind is a little bit at ease.
Well, but if you suddenly become rich and famous for doing comics, so that then you won't be able to get paid from the other.
Well,
such problems you should have, right?
Considering that this doesn't quite make me rich, I'll take the big money and let go of the little money. But yeah, at least I've got a little money, so I won't have to. I can pay my rent basically.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Cool.
Yeah, that's my story.
Yeah. So I mean, I knew everything up to what happened today with the legally sanctioned robberies.
Yeah. So now comics should move a little bit smoother, and I may be even able to afford to print Yakai, the Night Mystery, in English soon. So hopefully many good things are coming.
Okay, cool. So if you would like us to critique your comic on this podcast, you can send it as a PDF or a link to mail@deconstructingcomics.com. And we'll read at least 30 pages and talk about it on the podcast. And this comes out on the second and fourth Thursdays of the month. I'm on Twitter @DeconComics, and Mulele, your social media stuff?
I'm on Facebook, and I'm on Twitter, and I'm on Instagram as Mulele Redux, all one word. But I think on Facebook there are like two of me. I don't know how Facebook works. It's kind of fucked up. But anyway, search for the one that's active. The one that's not active probably stopped posting a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I think you did change accounts sometime quite a few years ago now. But yeah, Mulele Redux, you were a little... the signal had a little screwed up there, so just repeat it for you.
Yeah, thank you.
MULELEREDUX.
Perfect. Your spelling is better than mine.
Okay, that's good. Okay, so until next time, this is Tim.
And Mulele.
Thanks for listening to Critiquing Comics.